The stars looked cold against the black of space as Commander Kethvar studied the long-range sensors from the bridge of his heavy cruiser. 12 ships of the Zephyrian Third Fleet moved through space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant suns. They had been patrolling this sector for 3 months now, searching for new worlds to bring under the Empire's control. "Commander, we have a contact," reported the sensor officer, his voice steady but curious. "Unknown vessel at bearing 274. It's just sitting there." Kethvar moved to the sensor console and looked at the readings. The ship was medium-sized, maybe half the length of one of their cruisers. Its design was unlike anything in Mar. The Imperial database. Strange angles and smooth curves made it look almost organic, as if it had grown rather than been built. "Classification?" Kethvar asked. "Unknown, sir. The computer can't match it to any known design. It's not responding to our identification signals either." Admiral Vexthor's voice crackled over the communication system from the flagship Eternal Dominion. "Commander Kethvar, what do you make of this vessel?" "Unknown design, Admiral. Not in our records. It appears to be powered and operational, but they're not responding to standard protocols." There was a pause before the Admiral responded. "Very well. Follow standard first contact procedures. If they don't comply, we'll show them the power of the Empire." Kethvar nodded. In 300 years of expansion, the Zephyrian Empire had encountered hundreds of different species. The pattern was always the same. Show overwhelming force, demand submission, and most civilizations would surrender without a fight. Those few that resisted were quickly crushed. "Open a channel," Kethvar ordered. "Unknown vessel, you have entered space claimed by the Zephyrian Empire. Identify yourself and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your vessel." The response came back in a language the translator struggled with for several seconds before producing words. "This is Captain Jake Murphy of the Earth vessel Terra 7. We come in peace and request permission to establish diplomatic contact with your civilization." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Most species begged for mercy when faced with Imperial ships. This captain sounded calm, even friendly. "Earth?" Kethvar muttered, checking his databases again. No record of any planet or species by that name. Admiral Vexthor's voice came over the comm again. "Commander, instruct this Captain Murphy that there will be no diplomatic contact until they submit to Imperial authority. They will power down their weapons and allow boarding immediately." Kethvar relayed the message, but the response was not what he expected. "Admiral Vexthor, I presume. This is Captain Murphy. We have no hostile intentions, but we cannot allow boarding of our vessel without proper diplomatic protocols. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting between our representatives?" On the flagship's bridge, Admiral Vexthor felt his neck plates flare with irritation. No one had spoken to him with such casual disregard for Imperial authority in decades. He was a veteran of 50 conquered worlds, and this unknown captain was treating him like an equal. "Commander Kethvar, prepare to demonstrate Imperial power. Fire warning shots across their bow. Show them what happens to those who defy the Empire." The order was relayed through the fleet. Energy weapons powered up with a familiar hum that every Zephyrian crew knew meant business. Kethvar watched as his gunner prepared the shot. "Warning shots fired, Admiral," he reported as bright beams of energy streaked across space, passing just in front of the strange vessel. Captain Jake Murphy watched the display on Terra 7's bridge as the alien weapons fired. The beams were powerful, but primitive compared to human technology. Still, the message was clear enough. "They want to play rough," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from the weapons station. "Should we return the favor?" "Not yet," Murphy replied. "Let me try once more." He opened the channel again. "Admiral, those warning shots were unnecessary. We've done nothing hostile toward your fleet. All we want is peaceful contact between our peoples." Amy shook her head. "Captain, I'm reading weapon locks from all 12 ships. They're not interested in talking." Murphy had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He'd seen this kind of behavior before, though never from aliens. Some cultures only understood strength, They viewed attempts at peace as weakness. Helm, bring us to combat readiness. Shields up, but don't power weapons yet. The bridge crew moved efficiently. Terra 7's advanced shielding system activated with barely a whisper of sound. The ship's hull seemed to shimmer slightly. As the defensive field surrounded it. On Kethvar's cruiser, the sensor officer looked up with confusion. Commander, the unknown vessel just activated some kind of defensive system. But the readings don't make sense. What do you mean? The power output is enormous, sir. Much higher than should be possible for a ship that size. And the field configuration is completely unknown. Admiral Vexthor's patience had run out. All ships target the unknown vessel. Full bombardment. Destroy it. Kethvar felt a moment of unease as he relayed the order. The alien ship hadn't actually done anything threatening, but orders were orders, and the Empire's reputation for swift justice had to be maintained. All weapons, open fire. 12 heavy cruisers unleashed their full firepower at once. Plasma beams, particle cannons, and fusion torpedoes streaked through space toward Terra 7. It was enough destructive power to level a small city. Murphy watched the incoming barrage on his tactical display. Amy, those weapons are going to hit us in 15 seconds. Shields holding steady, Captain. No penetration expected. They're really doing this, Murphy said quietly. They're actually trying to kill us without provocation. The alien weapons struck Terra 7's shields in a brilliant display of light and energy. The ship didn't even shudder. The advanced defensive systems absorbed the entire attack without strain. On every Zephyrian ship, sensor operators stared at their readings in disbelief. Direct hits from 12 heavy cruisers should have vaporized any known vessel. Instead, the alien ship sat unchanged, its strange shields apparently unaffected. Impossible, whispered Kethvar. Nothing could survive that bombardment. Admiral Vexthor's voice cut through the shocked silence. Report. What is the status of the target? Admiral, Kethvar said slowly, the alien vessel is undamaged. Our weapons had no effect at all. Captain Murphy opened the channel one last time. His voice was no longer friendly. Admiral Vexthor, you have just committed an unprovoked attack on a peaceful vessel. This is your final warning. Stand down your weapons and withdraw from this area immediately. Vexthor's response was immediate. You dare threaten the Zephyrian Empire. We are the masters of this galaxy. No primitive species can stand against us. Murphy looked at Amy. Power weapons. Target their lead ship. Weapons powered and locked on target, Captain. Fire one shot. Make it count. The nightmare was about to begin for the Zephyrian Empire. Lieutenant Amy Foster's finger hovered over the firing control. She had served on 3 different Earth defense vessels, but she had never fired on an alien ship before. The weight of making history pressed down on her shoulders. Target locked on the lead cruiser, Captain, she reported. Fire, Captain Murphy said quietly. A single beam of coherent energy lanced out from Terra 7. It was not the crude plasma fire of the Zephyrian weapons, but something far more advanced. The beam struck Commander Kethvar's cruiser dead center, cutting through the hull like it was made of paper. The Zephyrian ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Metal and debris scattered in all directions as the fusion core lost containment. In less than 3 seconds, a heavy cruiser that had conquered dozens of worlds was nothing but expanding gas and wreckage. On the remaining 11 ships, crews stared at their screens in complete silence. The alien vessel had just destroyed one of their most powerful warships with a single shot. The energy readings from that beam were off the scale. Commander Veltar, now the senior field commander after Kethvar's death, felt his hands shaking as he tried to process what he had just witnessed. All ships, cease fire. Repeat, cease fire. Immediately. Admiral Vexthor's voice came over the communication system filled with rage and disbelief. What happened to Commander Kethvar's ship? Report, Admiral, Veltar said, his voice barely steady. The alien vessel destroyed the zealous warrior with one shot. The entire ship is gone. There was a long pause before the Admiral responded. Impossible. One ship cannot generate that much firepower. Sir, I'm sending you the sensor readings now. On the flagship's bridge, Admiral Vexthor studied the data his science officer had compiled. The energy output from the alien weapon was staggering. It exceeded the combined firepower of his entire fleet. Moreover, the beam had penetrated their shields as if they didn't exist. Science Officer Nextall, analyze these readings. How is this possible? The elderly Zephyrian scientist looked up from his console with confusion written across his features. Admiral, according to these numbers, their weapon operates on principles we don't understand. The energy density should be physically impossible. Are you telling me that this single unknown vessel is more powerful than our entire fleet? Sir, based on what we just observed, yes. That appears to be exactly what I'm telling you. Captain Murphy opened a channel to the remaining Zephyrian ships. Admiral Vexthor, you have just witnessed what happens when you attack peaceful vessels. I do not want to destroy any more of your ships. Order your fleet to withdraw. And no, one else has to die today. Admiral Vexthor felt something he had not experienced in his 50 years of military service: fear. But he was a career officer of the Empire, and retreat was not in his vocabulary. Unknown vessel, you may have superior weapons, but you are still outnumbered 11-1. Surrender now, or face the full might of the Empire. Murphy looked around his bridge at his crew. They had all heard the threat, and their faces showed a mixture of determination and sadness. No one wanted this fight, but the aliens seemed determined to have it. Amy, spread the word to all stations. We're going to have to fight our way out of this. Captain, said Commander Rick Barnes, the ship's first officer, maybe we should try to disable their ships instead of destroying them. Negative. They've already shown they only understand overwhelming force. If we show mercy now, they'll see it as weakness and keep attacking. Murphy opened the channel again. Admiral Vexthor, this is your final warning. Withdraw your ships now. The response was immediate. All ships, attack formation, destroy that vessel at all costs. The remaining 11 cruisers moved into a complex attack pattern trying to surround Terra 7. Their weapons powered up again, and this time they fired everything they had. Plasma cannons, fusion torpedoes, particle beams, and exotic weapons filled the space around the human ship. With deadly energy, Amy watched her tactical display as hundreds of weapons impacts struck their shields. Shields at 98%. And holding, Captain. Their weapons are barely scratching us. Return fire, take out their flagship first. Terra 7's weapon systems targeted the Eternal Dominion. Admiral Vexthor had just enough time to see the targeting lock appear on his screens before the human beam weapon fired. The flagship's shields failed instantly. The beam punched through the hull and struck the main reactor. Vexthor felt the deck plates buckle under his feet as his ship began to die around him. Abandon ship, he shouted over the alarms. All hands, abandon ship. The Eternal Dominion broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Escape pods scattered from the wreckage like frightened insects. Commander Veltar watched his admiral's flagship die and knew the battle was lost. But his remaining ships were still firing, still trying to damage the impossible alien vessel. Their weapons had no effect at all. All ships, concentrate fire on their engine section. He ordered desperately. The human ship moved with impossible grace, dodging attacks that should have been unavoidable. Its speed and maneuverability defied everything the Zephyrians knew about physics. It was as if the laws of space itself bent around the alien vessel. Terra 7's return fire was swift and precise. Another cruiser exploded, then another. Each shot was perfectly placed, designed for maximum destruction. The human weapons seemed to ignore Zephyrian shields completely, striking the hulls directly and causing catastrophic damage. Within minutes, half the remaining fleet was destroyed or disabled. The survivors found themselves facing a single alien ship that appeared to be playing with them. Please, Commander Veltar transmitted on all frequencies, we surrender. Don't destroy any more ships. Captain Murphy felt a wave of relief. All ships, power down your weapons and move to a safe distance. We'll discuss terms for your withdrawal. But not all the Zephyrian commanders were ready to give up. Captain Zortek of the cruiser Iron Fist decided to make one last desperate attack. He rammed his ship at full speed toward Terra 7, hoping to damage it with a suicide run. Amy quote. S fingers danced over her controls. Ramming ship incoming, Captain. Permission to destroy it? Murphy watched the desperate alien ship racing toward them. He could have easily destroyed it, but something held him back. Instead, he ordered evasive maneuvers. Terra-7 moved aside at the last second. The Iron Fist shot past harmlessly and continued on into deep space, its crew probably unconscious from the acceleration. Let them go, Murphy said. They're beaten. No need to kill them all. Commander Veltar couldn't believe what he was seeing. The alien ship had shown mercy to a vessel trying to ram it. Such behavior was unknown in Zephyrian military doctrine. Unknown vessel, Veltar transmitted. This is Commander Veltar of the remaining Imperial ships. We formally surrender to your superior forces. Murphy nodded to his communications officer. Open a channel. Commander Veltar, this is Captain Murphy. Gather your surviving ships and return to your space. Tell your leaders that Earth seeks peaceful relations, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. Yes, sir. Understood. We will withdraw immediately. As the battered remains of the Zephyrian Third Fleet limped away from the battle zone, Captain Murphy sat back in his command chair. First contact with an alien civilization, and it had ended in violence. This was not how anyone had hoped it would go. Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need diplomatic specialists out here, as soon as possible. I have a feeling this is just the beginning. Fleet Admiral Nexara stood in the war room of the Zephyrian High Command, staring at the holographic display that showed the remains of the Third Fleet. Out of 12 heavy cruisers and 1 flagship, only 6 ships had made it back to Imperial space. The rest were destroyed or missing. Play the recording again, she ordered. The combat footage appeared in the center of the room. Military officers from across the Empire watched as the alien vessel called Terra 7 effortlessly destroyed Imperial ships with single shots. The weapon beams cut through their most advanced shields like they were made of thin air. General Karthek, head of Imperial Intelligence, pointed at the display. Admiral, we've run analysis on their weapon systems. The energy output exceeds anything in our database by a factor of 10. Their defensive shields absorbed our entire fleet's bombardment without even fluctuating. What about their ship design? Nexara asked. Any civilization that can build such weapons must have left traces somewhere. That's the problem, Admiral. We have no record of this Earth or its people. They don't appear in any of our conquest files, trade records, or intelligence reports. It's as if they appeared from nowhere. Admiral Nexara had built her career on careful planning and overwhelming force. Every world the Empire had conquered fell the same way. Show massive military superiority, demand surrender, and most civilizations submitted without real resistance. The few that fought back were quickly crushed by Imperial numbers and technology. But this was different. This was a single ship that had destroyed an entire fleet. Commander Veltar's report mentioned something else. General Karthek continued. The alien captain showed mercy. When one of our ships tried to ram them, they could have destroyed it easily. Instead, they moved aside and let it escape. Mercy? Nexara repeated the word like it tasted bitter. In 300 years of expansion, no species has ever shown mercy to Imperial forces. Sir, there's more. The aliens made no attempt to pursue our retreating ships. They could have wiped out the entire fleet, but they stopped fighting as soon as we surrendered. This troubled Nexara more than the superior weapons. An enemy that fought only in self-defense was unpredictable. Most species the Empire encountered were either too weak to resist or so aggressive they fought to the death. These humans seemed to be neither. What's our intelligence assessment of their homeworld? She asked. Unknown location, unknown population, unknown industrial capacity. We know nothing except what we learned from this one encounter. Emperor Zarthek's voice echoed through the war room as he entered with his personal guard. Every officer immediately stood at attention. Admiral Nexara, explain to me how a single alien ship destroyed one of our fleets. Your Imperial Majesty, we're dealing with a previously unknown species with technology far in advance of our own. Their weapons and defensive systems operate on principles we don't understand. The Emperor's expression darkened. Are you telling me there's a civilization in our space that's more powerful than the Empire? Based on this encounter, yes, sir. But we only faced one ship. We don't know their total military capacity. Then we'll find out. Admiral, prepare the Fifth Fleet for deployment. I want their homeworld found and conquered. No alien species will be allowed to threaten Imperial authority. Nexara hesitated. Your Majesty, perhaps we should attempt diplomatic contact first. If their entire military is as advanced as this one ship. Diplomacy? The Emperor's voice rose. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. We conquer them. Admiral, you will take the Fifth Fleet and destroy this threat to our supremacy. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. But sir, I recommend we increase the fleet size. 24 ships including 2 dreadnoughts should be sufficient to handle whatever we encounter. Make it so. And Admiral, I want no survivors among their military forces. Examples must be made. Meanwhile, in a small communications center on Terra 7, Captain Murphy was speaking with Earth Defense Command through quantum entanglement communications. The conversation had a slight delay, but it was real-time enough for proper discussion. Captain Murphy, came the voice of Colonel Lisa Grant. Your report is being reviewed at the highest levels. The Joint Chiefs are meeting with the President as we speak. Colonel, these aliens don't seem interested in peaceful contact. Their first response to our diplomatic greeting was to try to destroy us. Understood, Captain. Dr. Paul Richards wants to speak with you about the tactical situation. The voice changed to an older man with a slight accent. Captain, this is Dr. Richards, xenobiology and first contact specialist. Can you describe the aliens' behavior patterns? They seemed shocked that our weapons could penetrate their defenses, like they'd never faced serious resistance before. When we showed superior firepower, some wanted to surrender immediately, but their leadership kept ordering attacks even when it was hopeless. That suggests an empire built on intimidation, rather than actual military superiority. They've probably been conquering weaker civilizations for so long they forgot how to handle equals. Colonel Grant's voice returned. Captain, how did they react to your show of mercy? Confusion, mostly. When I let that ramming ship escape, their commander seemed genuinely surprised. Like mercy was a foreign concept. That's troubling, Dr. Richards said. It suggests a civilization that doesn't understand restraint in warfare. They may interpret mercy as weakness. So what do we do now? Murphy asked. Terra 3 and Terra 5 are being dispatched to your location with full diplomatic and scientific teams. But Captain, you should prepare for the possibility that they'll send a larger force. How much larger? If they follow historical patterns of aggressive empires, they'll send everything they can spare to maintain their reputation for invincibility. Captain Murphy looked out at the stars through his bridge viewports. Somewhere out there, alien military leaders were probably planning their next move. The first battle had been a massacre in humanity's favor, but he doubted the Empire would give up so easily. Colonel, what are our rules of engagement if they come back in force? Defend yourselves, but try to minimize casualties if possible. We're hoping this can still be resolved diplomatically. And if diplomacy fails? There was a long pause before Colonel Grant responded. Then show them why humanity spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. 3 days later, long-range sensors detected a massive fleet moving toward human space. 24 ships in perfect formation, led by vessels twice the size of anything they had seen before. Captain Murphy stood on his bridge as Terra 3 and Terra 5 took position alongside his ship. 3 human vessels against 24 alien warships. Captain, Amy said from her station, incoming transmission from the alien fleet. Put it through. The voice was different from the previous admiral, deeper and more threatening. Unknown vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Nexara of the Zephyrian Fifth Fleet. You will surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. Murphy looked at his fellow captains on the communication screen. Captain Dan Cooper of Terra 3 and Captain Kelly Stone of Terra 5 both nodded grimly. Admiral Nexara, Murphy replied. This is Captain Murphy. You are entering human space without permission. We offer you the same choice we gave your previous fleet. Withdraw peacefully or face the consequences. Your arrogance will be your destruction, human. We are the masters of this galaxy. Prepare to die. Murphy closed the channel and looked at his weapons officer. Amy, target their flagship. All ships prepare for battle. The second lesson for the Zephyrian Empire was about to begin. Fleet Admiral Nexara studied the 3 human ships from the bridge of her flagship, Imperial Vengeance. They were spread out in a loose triangle formation, looking tiny compared to her massive fleet. 24 of the Empire's most powerful warships against 3 alien vessels seemed like overwhelming odds. Science officer, what are the readings on their defensive systems? She asked. Admiral, their energy signatures are similar to the ship that destroyed the 3rd Fleet. Shield, strength appears to be extremely high, but we won't know for certain until we test them. Very well. All ships attack formation Delta 7. I want those vessels surrounded and destroyed quickly. Captain Murphy watched the alien fleet begin to spread out around them. The Zephyrian ships were impressive, especially the 2 massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed everything else in space. But size wasn't everything in space combat. Dan, Kelly, you see their formation? He said to his fellow captains. Classic encirclement, replied Captain Cooper from Terra 3. They're trying to hit us from all sides at once. They still don't understand what they're dealing with, added Captain Stone from Terra 5. Should we enlighten them? Murphy nodded. Target priority goes to the dreadnoughts first. We need to break their morale fast. The Zephyrian fleet completed their formation and opened fire simultaneously. 24 ships unleashed everything they had in a coordinated bombardment that lit up space like a small star. Plasma cannons, fusion missiles, particle beams, and exotic weapons created a deadly light show. All 3 human ships shrugged off the attack completely. Their advanced shielding systems absorbed the incredible firepower without even fluctuating. The aliens had brought more ships, but their weapons were still primitive by human standards. All ships return fire, Murphy ordered. Terra-7 S weapons targeted the Imperial Vengeance while Terra 3 and Terra 5 focused on the 2nd dreadnought, Eternal Glory. 3 beams of coherent energy lanced out and struck the massive alien ships. The results were immediate and devastating. Both dreadnoughts exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their hulls unable to withstand the human weapons. Debris from the massive ships scattered in all directions, some pieces striking nearby cruisers and damaging them. Admiral Nexara had just enough time to realize her flagship was dying before the bridge lost power. Emergency lighting flickered. On his atmosphere began venting from multiple hull breaches. Abandon ship, she shouted over the alarms. All hands abandon ship. Her aide helped her to an escape pod as the Imperial Vengeance broke apart around them. Through the small viewport, she watched her fleet scatter in panic as more ships exploded under human weapons fire. The human ships moved through space like deadly dancers. They accelerated and turned with impossible grace, avoiding weapons fire. That should have been unavoidable. Their speed seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. How are they moving like that? Whispered Commander Dexval from his cruiser. No ship can maneuver that fast. His science officer looked up from his console with wide eyes. Sir, their ships are generating some kind of gravity field. They're bending space around themselves to move faster than should be possible. The human vessels continued their deadly work. Each shot was precisely placed for maximum damage. They seemed to know exactly where to hit each alien ship to cause catastrophic failure. Within 5 minutes, half the Zephyrian fleet was destroyed or disabled. Captain Stone's voice came over the communication channel. Jake, I'm reading massive power buildup from that cruiser on our port side. Looks like they're overloading their reactor. Murphy saw the alien ship racing toward them at full speed, its hull glowing from internal heat. Another suicide run, just like in the previous battle. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered, but this time he had an idea. Instead of simply dodging, Terra 7's tractor beam locked onto the kamikaze ship and redirected it toward a group of undamaged cruisers. The overloaded ship exploded among its own fleet, destroying 2 more vessels and damaging several others. The remaining Zephyrian ships found themselves under attack from their own weapon. Commander Dexval, now the senior surviving officer, watched his fleet dissolve around him. 15 ships destroyed in less than 10 minutes, with no damage to the enemy at all. It was a massacre beyond anything in Imperial military history. All ships, he transmitted desperately, cease fire. We surrender. Please, we surrender. The human ships immediately stopped their attack. Captain Murphy opened a channel to the remaining Zephyrian vessels. Attention Zephyrian fleet, this is Captain Murphy. Power down your weapons and move to a safe distance. We'll discuss terms for your withdrawal. But not all the alien crews were ready to give up. 3 cruisers broke formation and tried to escape at maximum speed, apparently hoping to outrun the human ships and report back to their empire. Kelly, can you stop those runners without destroying them? Murphy asked. Copy that, Jake. Disabling shots only. Terra 5's weapons fired with surgical precision. The beams struck the fleeing ship's engine sections, causing them to lose power and drift helplessly in space. Admiral Nexara's escape pod was picked up by Captain Stone, who transported the injured alien to Terra 5's medical bay. It was the first time in Imperial history that an admiral had been captured alive by an enemy force. When Nexara woke up, she found herself in a clean, white room, unlike anything she had ever seen. A human in a white coat was checking some kind of medical device next to her bed. Where am I? She asked. You're in the medical bay of the Earth ship Terra 5, the human replied in perfect Zephyrian. I'm Dr. Richards. How are you feeling? You speak our language? We're fast learners, Admiral. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. You suffered some injuries when your ship was destroyed, but nothing serious. Nexara tried to sit up but felt dizzy. Why aren't I dead? Why haven't you killed me? Dr. Richards looked confused by the question. Why would we kill you? You're a prisoner of war, not a criminal. You'll be treated according to the laws of warfare. Laws of warfare? Nexara had never heard such a phrase. What laws? Rules about how to treat prisoners, protect civilians, minimize unnecessary suffering. Standard military ethics. This was completely foreign to the Admiral. The Zephyrian Empire conquered through total destruction of resistance. There were no rules, no mercy for the defeated. Your people have destroyed 2 of our fleets, she said. Don't you want revenge? Dr. Richards shook his head. Admiral, we only defended ourselves. Your fleets attacked us without provocation. We had no choice but to fight back. But you could have killed everyone. Why show mercy to a defeated enemy? Because that's what civilized people do. We're not monsters, Admiral. We don't enjoy killing. Nexara stared at the human doctor with growing understanding. These aliens fought with incredible skill and power, but they followed rules even in warfare. They showed mercy to defeated enemies and treated prisoners with care. For the first time in her military career, she began to understand what her empire had become. They were not the civilized conquerors they claimed to be. They were brutal invaders, who had never faced an enemy capable of showing them a better way. Dr. Richards, she said quietly, I need to speak with your captain. There are things about my people that you need to understand. Of course, Admiral. Captain Stone will be here shortly. But first, let me ask you something. Do you really want this war to continue? Nexara thought about her destroyed fleets, her dead crews, and her empire's reaction when they learned of this second defeat. More ships would be sent, more lives would be lost, and the humans would keep winning. No, she said finally. I don't want any more of my people to die uselessly. Then maybe it's time for your empire to learn a different way of dealing with other civilizations. Outside in space, the survivors of the Fifth Fleet gathered their escape pods and disabled ships. They had learned the same lesson as the Third Fleet, but at an even higher cost. The humans were not just more powerful than the Empire, they were better than the Empire. The question now was whether the Zephyrian leadership would be wise enough to accept this new reality, or foolish enough to keep sending fleets to their destruction. Emperor Zarthek sat alone in his private chamber, staring at the holographic reports from the Fifth Fleet. The numbers made no sense. 24 ships, including 2 dreadnoughts, completely destroyed by 3 alien vessels. Not damaged, not defeated, completely annihilated. His personal aide, General Mortak, stood quietly nearby. The old general had served the Empire for 60 years and had never seen the Emperor look so shaken. 2 fleets, General. 2 entire fleets wiped out by these humans. Your Majesty, perhaps it's time to consider alternative approaches. Zarthek's head snapped up. Alternative approaches? You mean surrender to aliens? Sir, I mean diplomatic contact. We know nothing about their civilization, their numbers, or their true military capacity. What if they have hundreds of ships like the ones that destroyed our fleets? The Emperor stood and walked to the great window that showed the capital city of Zephyr Prime spread out below. Millions of his subjects went about their daily lives, unaware that their empire's 300-year expansion had just met its first real obstacle. General, the Empire has never negotiated as equals with any species. If word spreads that we've been defeated by aliens, our conquered worlds might rebel. Sir, if we keep sending fleets against these humans, we might not have an empire left to worry about. Meanwhile, aboard Terra 5, Admiral Nexera sat across from Captain Stone in the ship's conference room. Dr. Richards was also present, serving as both translator and cultural advisor. Admiral, Captain Stone said, we need to understand your Empire's command structure. Who has the authority to end this conflict? Nexera looked tired. Her injuries were healing, but the weight of her military defeats seemed to age her. Only Emperor Zarthek can authorize peace negotiations. But Captain, you don't understand what you're asking. The Empire has never signed a peace treaty with equals. What do you mean? Dr. Richards asked. For 300 years we've conquered, through overwhelming force. Species either surrender immediately or get crushed. We've never faced an enemy that could fight back effectively. So you've been bullying civilizations that couldn't defend themselves? That's an accurate description, yes. The Empire expanded by finding weak targets and making examples of them. Word would spread that resistance was futile, and most worlds would surrender without fighting. Captain Stone leaned forward. Admiral, what happens when your Emperor learns about these defeats? He'll send more fleets, larger ones. He can't accept that the Empire might not be invincible. How many ships does your Empire have? Nexera was quiet for a moment. At full strength, maybe 2,000 combat vessels spread across our territory. But most are needed for garrison duty on conquered worlds. Dr. Richards and Captain Stone exchanged glances. The numbers were troubling, not because they represented a threat, but because they suggested massive loss of life if the conflict continued. Admiral, what would it take to convince your Emperor to negotiate? Honestly, I don't think anything could convince him. He'd rather see the Empire burn than admit we're not the masters of the galaxy. Then we need to give him a demonstration he can't ignore. 3 days later, a single human ship entered the Zephyr system. Terra 9, the newest vessel in the Earth Defense Fleet, appeared near the outer planets and began transmitting on all frequencies. This is Captain Linda Hayes of the Earth vessel Terra 9. I request an audience with Emperor Zarthek to discuss peaceful resolution of the current conflict. The Imperial fleet scrambled immediately. 6 heavy cruisers and 1 dreadnought moved to intercept the alien vessel. Emperor Zarthek watched from his command center as the confrontation began. Unknown vessel, came the transmission from Admiral Rexstar. You have entered Imperial space without authorization. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Captain Hayes' response was calm. Admiral, I'm here to prevent further loss of life on both sides. Your Emperor has the opportunity to end this conflict through negotiation. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. All ships, open fire. The 7 Imperial ships unleashed their full firepower on Terra 9. The human ships' shields absorbed the attack without effort, just like the previous battles. Admiral, Hayes said, I don't want to hurt your people. Please stand down. Impossible. Nothing can withstand our weapons. Continue firing. The bombardment continued for several minutes, with no effect on the human ship. Terra 9 didn't even bother to return fire. It simply sat in space, proving that Zephyrian weapons were useless against human technology. Emperor Zarthek watched in growing horror as his most powerful weapons failed completely. Then Captain Hayes did something that shattered his understanding of warfare forever. "Your Majesty," came her voice on the Imperial command frequency. "I know you're watching this. I could destroy these 7 ships right now, but I won't. I'm going to demonstrate something instead." Terra 9 moved with impossible speed, weaving between the attacking ships like they were standing still. Its tractor beams locked onto Admiral Rextar's dreadnought and began pushing the massive vessel toward Zephyr Prime. "What are they doing?" the Emperor whispered. "Dot." The human ship guided the helpless dreadnought through the planet's orbital defenses without firing a shot. Defense platforms and orbital fortresses tried to stop it, but their weapons were as useless as the fleets had been. Terra-9 brought the captured dreadnought to a stop directly above the Imperial capital city. The massive ship's shadow fell across the palace district as millions of citizens looked up in fear. Captain Hayes opened a channel to the Emperor's private communication system. "Your Majesty, I have one of your most powerful warships positioned above your capital. I could destroy your palace, your military command centers, and your government buildings right now. But I won't, because that's not who we are." Emperor Zarthek stared at the screens showing his own dreadnought being held captive above his city. No enemy had ever penetrated this far into Imperial space. No enemy had ever demonstrated such complete military superiority. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Peace, Your Majesty. An end to this pointless conflict before more people die. We have no interest in conquering your empire or harming your people. You could rule the galaxy with weapons like these. Why offer peace? Because ruling through fear and violence isn't ruling at all. It's just bullying on a massive scale. Your empire has been terrorizing weaker civilizations for centuries. It's time to try a different approach." General Mortak stepped forward. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should listen to their proposal." Emperor Zarthek looked around his command center at his advisors and officers. He saw fear in their eyes, but also something else: relief. The burden of constant conquest and oppression was weighing on them all. "Captain Hayes, what terms do you propose?" "Full diplomatic recognition between our peoples, an end to hostilities, and Your Majesty, you need to stop conquering other civilizations. The galaxy is big enough for everyone to coexist peacefully." "And if we refuse?" "Then we'll defend every world you try to invade, just like we defended ourselves. Your choice, Emperor. Peace and prosperity or endless war against an enemy you can't defeat." The Emperor was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke to his aide. "General Mortak, contact Admiral Nexara. Tell her she's been appointed our first ambassador to these humans." "Sir, she's their prisoner." "Not anymore. She's our representative in the first peace negotiation in Imperial history." Captain Hayes smiled, though the Emperor couldn't see it. "Your Majesty, I'm releasing your dreadnought. Now, Admiral Rextar and his crews are unharmed. When you're ready to begin formal negotiations, contact Admiral Nexara aboard Terra 5. Terra 9 released its hold on the dreadnought and moved away from the planet. The captured ship's crew immediately regained control and began moving to a safe distance. Emperor Zarthek watched the alien vessel disappear into hyperspace and realized that everything had changed. The age of easy conquest was over. The Empire would have to learn to coexist with species that could fight back. "General, prepare a statement for the Imperial Council. Tell them we're entering a new era of diplomacy and cooperation." "Yes, Your Majesty. What should I say about our military expansion?" "Tell them the Empire's expansion is officially ended. From now on we focus on governing what we already have, and we do it better than we have been." 3 months later, Admiral Nexara stood in the same conference room where she had been treated as a prisoner. Now she wore the insignia of an ambassador, the first in Zephyrian history. "Captain Murphy," she said to the human who had defeated her fleets, "the Emperor has ratified the peace treaty. Hostilities between our peoples are officially ended." Murphy smiled and shook her hand. "Admiral, I'm glad we could resolve this peacefully. What about your empire's other policies? The conquest campaigns have been stopped. We're withdrawing from worlds that were recently invaded and offering them independence. It's a difficult adjustment for our people. Change always is. But you'll find that cooperation works better than conquest in the long run. Nexara nodded. Captain, can I ask you something? Your people are clearly more advanced than ours. Why didn't you just take over the Empire when you had the chance? Murphy looked out at the stars through the conference room's viewport. Because that would make us just like you used to be. The galaxy doesn't need more conquerors, Admiral. It needs civilized.